dice, friends, funny voices, rules. Long ago, the 4 ingredients made an RPG in harmony. Then, everything changed when friends had difficult schedules. Only the Dungeon Master, who controls all the 4 elements, could fix it. But when the game needed him most, they didn't respond to anyone's texts. My podcast partner and I discovered the new Dungeon Master. And while he still has a lot to learn, I believe this Dungeon Master can save the game.
Yeah. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dungeon Master None.
I'm Dungeon Master Matt.
I'm Dungeon Master Rob, and in case it's not clear from
We're talking about M. Night Shyamalan's 2012 film,
tremendous
Avatar:
live-action,
The Last Airbender.
A original property by M. Night Shyamalan that has no predecessor whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean that's all I watched to prepare for this.
Yeah, no.
Is there something else?
No, there's nothing. Yeah, we're talking about. We're gonna be talking about Avatar: The Last Airbender, and this isn't new, but it just came out on Netflix, and it has been kind of hard to find for the past since it aired. 10 years ago? I don't know.
More than 10 years ago, I think.
Maybe 15, yeah.
Yep.
Weirdly, you either had to go to, I don't know, like Crunchyroll or something, or
which I will not.
Or download it illegally. Not that I would ever do that, but yeah, it's been really hard to find. So now a bunch of people are getting into Avatar for the first time, which is awesome. And I want to state unequivocally, I refuse to be shamed for this. I think Avatar: The Last Airbender, the first series, Korra is really good too, but the first one is one of the best TV shows ever made, period. Not cartoons.
It is for children, Rob.
It is for children. I refuse to apologize, though. I don't care.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's fine. It's a really well made. It deals with a lot of heavy themes. It's got great characterization. It's just solid, straight start to finish. You should watch it if you haven't watched it already. I guess if you haven't seen it, this may be of limited use to you, but hopefully, what we talk about with regards to Avatar will be helpful in
building your campaigns and your
worlds. As a dungeon master, because there's a lot to learn here.
There is a lot to learn. We've got to master all 4 bending styles, and I think those are, we're going to talk about the world building, the story, the characters, and maybe even some of the mechanics of Avatar.
That's right.
The four styles.
The 4 elements in harmony that you, as a dungeon master, the Avatar of tabletop role-playing games, have to master to save the world. From the, let's just call capitalism the Fire Nation, in this metaphor that we are stretching to its absolute breaking point. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're an early industrialized capital country, and my people have experienced a long time of unity and prosperity, and they just want to share it with the rest of the world. That's all empire is.
It's just bringing enlightenment and steam engines and big iron
and fire flakes. Don't forget the fire flakes.
Fire flakes to the rest of the world. Just
if only we had something like that in America, like Cool Ranch Doritos. We're bringing those to the world.
Flameo Hot Man flavored chips.
Okay, let's start with some of the world building of Avatar, and this is some of the best world building we've had in a franchise in a long time. You take 2 good things that people love. 1, martial arts. 2, more martial arts, but martial arts that control elemental magic.
That's right. You take magic and martial arts and you mash them together.
It doesn't even matter if you come up with a dumb name like bending. It's still
bending.
cool.
No, bending is dumb. It somehow the show, overcame that bending sounds goofy as hell. It's great. You've got, and this is super interesting. Bear with me while I go off on a tangent about elements, but there are traditional, Chinese elements, right? And they expand beyond the Aristotelian elements, which are earth, wind, fire, water.
Heart.
There's Heart.
Heart
You
is
could
the
also
one that's
include, I think, if we're talking Eastern elements, they also include something like iron or like.
No, it's. Hey, I'm gonna school you, Rob. It's
School me.
wood, fire.
That's right.
Water, earth, and metal.
Metal. That's what it is. Again, I think it would have been much weirder to have a 5-element avatar. So I know why they went with 4, but it's just kind of interesting that in so many other ways this show is heavily influenced by Asian culture and aesthetics and mythology, but sticks with the Western 4 elements.
Well, it's complicated because I feel like in like Tibetan elemental cosmology, it is very similar to the Aristotelian. I can't say it.
Aristotelian?
Aristotelian? The Tilian elements.
I've never said this word out loud, so those posited by Aristotle.
There's a big diversity of different types of elemental arrangements. And now, I want to say before we get too much more in the elements, I see on, all the world building forums that I used to frequent back in the day, everyone wants to make an elemental magic system, and it usually sucks.
It sucks.
I do have to say that normally when you try and do this for whatever game you're trying to run, it usually ends up sucking because you make it overly complicated.
Yes, it can be done. I believe it has yet to be done particularly well. And there's definitely like a certain appeal to being like, all of my spells, and Matt, you did this in your levelers campaign, are
right.
A combination of, or they are dependent on one element or another. It's a cool idea and it is functional, but it is very easy for it to become too complicated.
Too much. However, in this, it works. Why does it work so well?
It works so well because they don't overcomplicate it, right? They don't try to... You could just bend, right? I want to go into like this a little bit more deeply, but I think that the reason why it works in Avatar so well is that the way that bending is a soft magic, right? It is not a hard magic system, right? Does that make sense? It doesn't have... Bear with me here, right? It's not like Mistborn or The Name of the Wind, right?
Okay.
It doesn't have like... It's not like a science, right? It doesn't have like specific rules. Like you have to... It's also not like Vancian, right? It's... Do you understand, Matt? Why are you giving me this face? Like you don't know what I'm going to say?
I think I kind of disagree with you.
You disagree?
In that, okay, bending has rules. Some people are benders.
Right.
Some people are not. This is a trait you are born with. You can only bend one element unless you're the Avatar. In order to bend, you can sort of roughly move things around just through natural ability and will. But to do anything cool, you have to train and you have to be able to move your limbs, right? And those are very clearly established rules in the world.
Right. No, I'm not saying it doesn't have rules, but like it is soft in the sense that with a certain amount of willpower and inventiveness and you can bend the rules or break them, right? It is not, you have to have studied and combine the exact right combination of words and symbols and it doesn't function exactly like a physics problem, right?
Yeah, there's not water bending scrolls that tell you exactly how to do moves or things.
Right.
Like that. Wait,
so
there
that
is.
Matt is.
I'm disagreeing with you. It's okay. You just power through.
I think that we are both right. I'm taking the center position.
But I am more right, technically right. The best kind of right.
I also think that it works. It more works because rather than being a magic system that is wizards chanting words and casting spells, it is based on everything flows from your martial arts style, right? And this is the coolest thing about Avatar: The Last Airbender, is every bending style is dependent upon it is sort of synergistic with a fighting style, right?
Yes.
Water bending is modeled off of Tai Chi. Earth bending is like
Kung Fu.
Kung Fu, and I think airbending is Shaolin, maybe also Kung Fu. But
airbending is like a very strange style, and I looked this up a while ago. It's based off of...
So while Matt looks this up, the point is that...
Ba Gua.
Oh, okay.
Right?
I'm not familiar.
It's called like walking the circle, and if you notice the animations, airbenders are always like walking and circling around their opponents.
Got it. Anyway, this works particularly well in the service of these elements because they're not just you're balancing these elemental powers, it is your martial arts prowess, right? So it is a combination of physical combat and, you know, mystical energy, right? It's a, I guess it's sort of, maybe it only works because it's new and interesting, but it, I think, rescues the whole 4 elements in Avatar from, you know, being subject to these awful, I don't know, complex nerd debates. It makes it much simpler, right? You're doing fighting, right? You're kicking and flames come out of your foot, right? I think like it simplifies it visually and functionally for the show so that it doesn't get bogged down in what happens when other people try to create, you know, elemental magic systems, for example.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Right. There is something super cool about doing martial arts and doing magic at the same time, and that the line between those two are blended, right? That's if we're drilling down to what the cool innovation is. It's that magic is not spell casting, which is really can be really, really boring unless you've added something new, especially when you're creating your own new world or your own new role-playing game system. Beyond that, I think the world building is great in sort of what the limits of and description of the world in that players or watchers of the show, players in your game, if you're doing something similar, can quickly get an idea of what this world is like, yet there's a lot to explore. There are 4 nations corresponding to the 4 elements. There is a spirit world that is mysterious and weird, right? The biggest nation is diverse and fractured and full of opportunities for adventure. All the other nations have very strong themes.
Mm-hmm. And this is so. Let's address the elephant in the room here, Matt. Since this is the theme of the day.
Wait, just an elephant? You don't mean a moose elephant or a catfish elephant?
An elephant seal? No, damn it, that's a real thing.
That's a real thing.
Fuck, I was like trying. Elephant, dogophant. Yeah, anyway. Oh, sorry. Actually, while we're talking about this is totally just like a throwaway thing, and there's no explanation for it, but almost every animal in Avatar is like just some random combination of 2 other animals for no like good reason, and it rules. There's
once you've seen a drawing of a turtle duck, you will never want normal ducks or normal turtles again. Yeah.
There's no reason why this has to be, but someone was like, what if every animal was 2 animals? And it rules. It fucking rules. It's just like, this is the kind of thing, you know, be careful when adding this to your world, but if you just like want like a little thing to like distinguish it, this is of no real consequence, except when it comes to like, I don't know, what sort of beasts of burden do people ride? But it's just like a fun little like extra, you know? And so you're like, here's a badger mole, and it's great. It's, you know, it doesn't make a huge difference, but it's a fun little touch that makes
your
Avatar
world feel interesting and magical.
Yes. So the dogophant in the room. This was a show created by white people about mostly, you know, an Asian-inspired fantasy world. I would argue, and by the way, as we have discussed time and time again, I'm a white man, so my opinion is not the final word on here, but I think most people are satisfied with the depiction of these fantasy Asian societies, Asian-inspired societies in Avatar. And I think that is a lesson to all of us in how we might approach this when we are building our own worlds, right? When you are trying to create fantasy or world-built societies, you know, conlangs or whatever, that draw from real-world societies, there is a way to do it that is not appropriative and that is not exploitative. And I think Avatar is about as good as you can do. It's kind of it's a a love letter, and it's excited about and interested in all of the different societies involved. It does not closely adhere to any society. Like the Earth Kingdom is kind of China, Fire Kingdom is kind of Japan, but it's also kind of
Thailand.
Kind of Thailand,
but with the geography of Hawaii
or like the Philippines, yeah. And so this is a good lesson, right? Like you can, if you want to avoid being exploitative and appropriative, draw broadly from themes and ideas, but don't just grab Japan and make it, fantasy Japan, but they have firebending, right? And this is a difficult line to walk. This is not easy to do, but I think that Avatar has done a good job. And listeners, if you disagree, I'm interested to hear your thoughts, but I think it's done pretty well.
Yeah, I agree. The idea is they've drawn from tropes that are not too specific to any one country, and I think with a fair bit of respect to all of them. It also helps that this is more set in the distant past.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite part of this is in the sequel series, Korra, the Legend of, where it's set in an urban area, and the architecture and the feel of the cities are specifically drawn from, again, a broad range of cities in like the 1920s, from Shanghai, from Vancouver, from San Francisco, right? Cities heavily influenced by a broad range of cultures from the Pacific Rim. And yeah, it works really, really well.
So one of the things that is both wonderful about Avatar, but challenging from if you were trying to draw from this as a DM, is that some of what makes this show so good when it comes to world building is that it is very visual. And so this is a challenge if you are not yourself an artist, but Avatar, all of the various nations have distinct visual architectural styles and clothing styles, hairstyles. Everything about them is not radically different, but you can easily look at somebody on screen and be like, oh, that's somebody from the Fire Nation, somebody from the Earth Nation. Or you can look at a city and be like, that's a Earth Nation, Earth Kingdom city, right? And this is really, I love this because they've clearly like looked at pagodas and the Great Wall and all of these different like distinct architectural styles from like Thailand and Cambodia and from Tibet, and visually represented that in very, very interesting ways that is just strikingly different. And this is something that you could absolutely do, but it's so easy to just, I guess in a cartoon, throw it up there and like visually indicate to people where you are and what you're doing. But it's a good lesson, I think, for us as world builders and as DMs, that your setting and your architecture and
color,
clothing style, right, are very, very important. And it only takes like one or two or three like just flares or touches, mention when your players come into a town that everybody is wearing robes with, pointy shoulder pads, or they've got on hats with, pins through their hair, or the buildings have several tiers, little things that can distinguish all of your various fantasy cultures. This is just so well done.
Yeah. Building on that, I think this show does a really great job of also explaining kind of its backstory in pieces and have sort of logical roots for why things are happening, right? The big plot, spoilers if you haven't watched it, or not really because you learn this pretty quickly, is that one of the four nations is invading and conquering the other nations, right? And there's both motivations personal, but also structural for that. Mm-hmm. Fire Nation appears to have undergone some sort of proto to full industrialization, and it makes a lot of sense, right? Maybe a nation that controls the element of fire would, figure out how to make power plants and steam-powered ships and stuff like that, right? And then that's kind of the backstory underlying why they're invading things. But then beyond that, this is sort of in the Dungeons & Dragons discourse right now, you soon discover that the Fire Nation people are not inherently evil. Fire not bad. Fire actually good.
Fire good? And honestly, this is getting ahead of myself, but the redemption of both the Fire Nation and our beautiful boy Avatar of the Fire Nation, Zuko, is one of the most wonderful.
Must restore my honor.
Redemption arcs, because Zuko not only redeems himself, but redeems the entire concept of fire bending as not inherently destructive, right? He learns a different style of a different approach to firebending that is not just one based on domination and control, right? He's like, how can fire be a productive force? And this is one of the things that the show starts out with a little bit of like the Star Trek problem, right? You've got the Ice Nation, you've got the Earth Nation, you've got the Fire Nation, you got
the Planet of Hats trope,
right?
The
Planet
Gangster
of Hats trope, right?
Nation, the Roman Nation, right?
But
it
as
quickly
the
moves
show
beyond
progresses, right? You learn, they explore how these nations developed, right? How waterbending might lead you to be a seafaring people, where you might settle in the ice caps because that works out fine for you because you can bend water, or why the earthbenders might have a nice long-running stable civilization that spans a great continent but is kind of bureaucratic and like Matt said, why the people who can literally control fire might undergo an industrial revolution. And then you learn more than just earth good, fire bad, right? Each nation has depth and good people and bad people, and more so than most fantasy anythings does such a good job of understanding like the structural elements and individual actions and developing like these complex people.
But Rob, without a nation that is inherently evil, how will you have morality or conflict in your game?
I mean, there's only like one person who's in the well, that's not true. There's one like main villain, right? Our Fire Lord, who's barely actually even in the show. Mark Hamill, love him to death. Who is evil, and even then you understand like what propels him to be evil, why he feels like that he must conquer and dominate, right? There's also, and I don't want to spoil this, but like there's also an evil waterbender who is quite horrifying and has developed her own like shockingly evil waterbending technique, and it's born out of being like kidnapped by and brutalized by the Fire Nation. Like this show deals with like trauma and fascism and like genocide in like a really, like, for a kid's show, like a pretty sophisticated way. And I think everybody should I think it's like a great example of how you can absolutely teach children like difficult and like complicated subjects. Like they can handle it. They can absolutely, like, it's totally like possible to talk about these things in a children's show. Like it's actually quite simple to understand how evil people can do, or good people can do bad things, and evil people can have tragic, complex backgrounds, etc., etc. It's such a good show for adding complexity and depth. You spend a lot of time in the show in the Fire Nation, and I think this is like a great, again, we're talking about the D&D discourse, like this is like I think it would be and is great to like have your players spend a lot of time in a evil nation. Like a good example of this is like there's a whole adventure path that takes place in Cheliax in I forget what's called, something Devils. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do.
I didn't play it. But
Paizo, in their excellent timing, I think right now their adventure path has the players being cops.
It's a cop one. It's
cool.
like a, yeah,
good job.
Not great timing. But like there's a great, sorry that I can't remember what it's called, but there's a great Paizo adventure path, and Cheliax is, an evil empire. It is literally, they have a pact with devils and but there are ordinary people that live there, and, there's plenty of good and bad people working within it. This is, I think this is a very interesting way to, if you're starting to think about, well, not all orcs are evil, how do I dissuade my players of that notion? Run a campaign that takes place in orc tribe, or like a orc stronghold, or a big nation of orcs. I have done this before. I loved it. It was one of my favorite campaigns.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that they make the Fire Nation both sympathetic and make you understand exactly how it can be so cruel and so evil is really well done at Avatar. Like you meet and sympathize with plenty of like Fire Nation people, and at the same time understand that there are plenty of bad folks involved, right?
Yeah, this is not about being like, you can't have evil people, or you can't have your players bring wrongdoers to justice.
Right.
That happens nearly every episode, right?
Yes.
It's about having just a little bit of nuance.
I don't think there are any bad airbenders because there aren't any airbenders left. But there's a bad...
Zahir.
Oh, that's...
Though
sorry,
actually Zahir was right.
Zahir rules. Zahir's... Justice for Zahir. Zahir was right. I actually wasn't going to talk about Korra too much. I was going to focus on the first one because, boy, do I have problems with how they dealt with Zahir and his radicalness.
Right.
In which I...
For killing the Earth Queen. How dare you?
Dare he. But, yeah, there's bad earthbenders, there's bad waterbenders, there's bad firebenders, but there's good firebenders, good earthbenders, good waterbenders, Your bending doesn't make you inherently good or bad. It just it encourages you to have, and I like this, right? Like, it's like, okay, so if you can inherently move earth, what sort of person does that make you, right? All the earthbenders are muscular and, kind of stout and jacked, and all the, waterbenders are cool surfer bros, and, all the firebenders are, stuck up, military assholes. And they're not all like this, but it's what sort of how would this influence your culture and behavior, right? Rather than you are inherently one way or another because of your bending, right?
Yeah. Speaking of people, maybe we should talk a little bit about the characters and story presented in Avatar.
Yeah, let's talk about this. So, Matt, would you describe the Avatar and friends as an adventuring party?
Sure, I would. They make a perfect adventuring party, with the one exception of maybe you don't want one character being the special savior of the world. However, if you have a group that's down with that, there's no reason why you can't, because if you watch the show, you realize that, of the characters, basically all of them have just as interesting arcs as the special world savior Snowflake.
Yeah.
Our beautiful bald boy Aang.
It is hard to do this, but up until the very end, Aang is not substantially more powerful than the other people in the group. This varies based on the episode, but, you've got basically, by the end, a representative of each of the, bending disciplines, and then our beautiful, powerful normie, Sokka, who we love, and takes a long time to get there, but eventually gets a cool meteor sword and can fight and make plans. He's the bard of the group.
Yeah,
we know. We got to acknowledge it. But every group needs a bard,
He didn't sink all his XP into just bending. He has actual skill points. That's
right. Everybody else has.
He can do things besides fight. It's cool.
Everybody else has one skill, and then all their character creation points sunk into bending. But Sokka diversified, and it paid off for him in the long run.
The characterization in the show is extremely good, with a couple minor flubs, in my opinion. But yeah.
Ooh, tell me about your flubs. I'm curious.
I feel like there's 3 or 4 episodes where it's just a conflict between Toph, our earthbender, and Katara, our waterbender. I think those episodes are all like low points in the series.
Yeah.
There's
the Toph...
we can't have our two female characters get along for some reason.
No. They've got to hate each other for some inexplicable reason. No, I agree. The ones that feel most contrived are the Toph Katara episodes. That's a good point. But yeah, the characterization is really good. Everybody has their own motivations, and everybody gets like a couple of solo episodes. It's really good. Everybody has their own reasons for joining the Avatar's group. Everybody has their own motivations independent of like just supporting Aang, right? They're all like well-developed characters in their own right. Also, and I do want to get back to the Avatar crew, but I think the supporting characters in Avatar: The Last Airbender are among the best. This is just like such a great example of how, if you want to have recurring NPCs, how to make them matter. I'm not sure if he really counts, but Uncle Iroh, my boy, my very favorite character in maybe any piece of media ever, is like a really like awesome mentor figure and like driving force for Zuko, and also like a great, sometimes a chaos agent or change agent, like in the story, like he shows up and messes with things or becomes like a focal point. Same too with...
This is a great example of, if you want to have like a recurring villain that the players are organized around, make sure to give that villain 2 or 3 other side NPCs that your players are aware of and can interact with him to remind them that, you know, no group that is after them is a monolith. And now I'm going to make Robert cry. Leaves from the vine... falling so slow, like tiny, fragile shells.
Matt, I already got my crying out before we started. I rewatched that episode, so I would no longer
soldier boy
comes marching home. I already cried before, so that I wouldn't cry during the episode. Right. No, one of the saddest episodes of TV. Rest in peace,
Lutin,
Mako, and also real life voice of Iroh, and also
did he die during the...
Yeah, he died. He died midway through the filming of Avatar, which is sad. Why he was less present in the last book. But also, his son Lutin. Rest in peace. What a great and the thing is, like, sorry, getting back to like world building and characterization, is all of these characters have depth and complexity and tragedy in their backgrounds, but you don't learn about it right away, right? You learn more about Katara's, like what happened to her parents later. You learn more about Aang and Zuko and Iroh and Jet. Speaking of like great like side characters, Jet, Boomy, the Boulder. Everybody should include a pro wrestling like side character like the Boulder.
The Boulder. Yes. I think this is a great example of how to help your players. First off, right? Again, there's nothing wrong with having everyone in the party have tragic backstories, right?
Yeah.
It works really well. But really, I think one of the things you might want to set up with your players is have them write that tragic backstory in little chunks, like put little boxes on where they're writing it, right? And have them reveal it one box at a time, right? When they decide to. Because everyone at your table is going to get, and it's going to be too much for any character to process if you reveal a giant tragic backstory all at once. But if you're like one piece at a time, it's just a helpful way to let your characters pace themselves instead of a dump on at the end of session 1 where they're like, well, first I was an orphan and then I struggled and then I couldn't get along with this, just chunk it out.
Yeah. Also, all of these characters are extremely complex in ways that impresses me still. I love Toph, who is kind of like really difficult with everybody sometimes and is blind, right? Who has her own struggles, but she's also a sheltered daughter of like an extremely like rich family, ends up being like insanely powerful within the context of the show, but is I think that is really like well developed as a, not everybody is like inherently you can be good and on the right side and still kind of be a pain in the ass, or you can be, virtuous and like the counterexample is Iroh, who is virtuous and noble and fights for the wrong side for much of the show,
Yeah. This is, I think, an important lesson, too, to when making your NPCs and your characters is never rely on one thing. This is where you get into stuff that's not fun for you at the table and kind of sucks, right? You don't want to make a character that is blind. Being blind is not an entire characterization, right?
Yes.
Right? Being blind and a child of privilege that is rich, but is also kind of an asshole who doesn't care what anyone thinks. Like, this is a fully developed character, right?
Right. Yes.
Being, an orphan is not a full characterization.
Exactly.
Being an orphan who longs to prove himself as a warrior to his tribe, right? That is getting there.
Well, and like this is what makes Katara and Sokka such a great example. They are both, their mother is gone, their father is away, captured, they are on their own, and they both have radically different responses to that, right? Sokka is a little frivolous, lighthearted, trying to prove himself, but doesn't take himself too seriously. Katara takes herself extremely seriously, is trying to, single-handedly become the best waterbender and has some moments of extreme violence and, intensity about, attacking people who she feels have done harm to her. I think it's a great example of how two people can respond to the exact same stimulus or, event and come out with different approaches. It's just, there's nothing I think uniquely good about or exceptionally good about these characterizations. They just feel very well thought out. It feels like somebody really tried to develop full characters. And I think that's what you as a DM or as a player should try to do whenever you are designing either your character or your NPCs.
You can't talk about the characters without talking about how they develop. I think Avatar is a great example for dungeon masters for thinking about planning chapters or planning games in both chapter and sort of season mentality, right?
Mm-hmm.
If goal of season 1 is to, make it to the North Pole and defeat the Fire Nation there, right? What can you do along the way in sort of an episodic way to build the world, have tiny adventures that have conclusions in and among themselves, but still build towards a larger plot?
Yeah, this is a really great example of an arc that has both. It's got, some tension to it because there is a time limit on it, at least by the second or third book. You find out that a comet is coming, right? And the Fire Nation will be vastly empowered. And so Aang has to, he's got a time limit, right? But it's far enough away, right? That, the show can progress without, anybody feeling under the gun. And there's also a second time event, like an eclipse. And this is a great way, I think, to sort of design, if you're trying to design, this is a great model for designing a D&D or any TTRPG campaign, right? You've got something so that your players can't just infinitely dawdle, but it's not so pressing that they can't also explore
and have fun.
Explore and have fun, right? There's all these great side episodes. There's one of my favorites of all time is there's a Shane knockoff where Zuko goes to some small western town and saves it from bandits. And
it's a great episode.
It's a great episode. There's obviously the pro wrestling tournament. There's a couple of off ones where they're in the Fire Nation, and these are great episodes.
There's a Footloose one where Aang teaches children to dance.
Right. The one that makes me cry is 3 totally irrelevant stories. Zuko goes on a date with a nice Earth Nation girl. It's just, this is great stuff, but it doesn't work if your players are well, should we be working on the main quest right now? So you need to set this up in such a way that they know that there is a threat but it is far enough away that they can explore and have fun and meet side characters, pursue interests, that sort of thing. And this is challenging to do well, but I think that's what I love about Avatar is it does it very, very well, right? It does a great job. And every now and then something will happen where like, we got to get to work, like I said, the eclipse, the comet, the Fire Nation tries to drill into the Earth Kingdom at one point, they attack the North Pole. So but these small minor events, right, that punctuate the overall progression. This is a good way to model, like in arcs or books, like Matt said,
right,
model your campaign.
Yeah, it's the dungeon master of this campaign does a good job of letting the players breathe and explore the world, but then throwing in threats from the main quest every now and then. A Fire Nation bounty hunter shows up and tries to capture them.
Sorry, this is both story and characterization, but all of the minor villains are super solid in this show. This is also another great example. They have enough depth and characterization that your players will, or the characters invest in them, and they're threatening enough. Like the
right Admiral Zhou, Long Fang, the creepy hot bounty hunter that rides a smelly thing,
Sparky Boom Man. This is even better. This is actually, I think, one of the things that Korra does better is that the seasonal villains are real good. Each one of them is like really compelling. And I think this is great because the overall villain of the arc, the show, is of course
the Avatar himself. Yes, or herself. Right, the Avatar is actually bad.
Well, in the first series, it's the Fire Lord, right?
Right?
But you don't even see him or encounter him until late in the show, and so you have all of these. So at first, it's actually Zuko, and then it's Admiral Zhou, and it's the bounty hunter, and all these like minor villains that are terrific. And sometimes it's just like one episode you've got this villain, and it's great. It's just we should all be so good at designing compelling, threatening, interesting, complex villains.
Right. It's you always, the most important thing to do with your villains, and this show is a lesson, is just make sure you're introducing the villain before the players have a chance to confront or deal with them, right? And this doesn't have to be that the villain kicks their ass and then, swirls their cape and then walks away. You just have to show the players evidence of their villainy or threateningness or badassery, and then let the players confront them, right? So they know who this person is and what they're capable of.
And every time a villain is presented in Avatar, there's a good reason why they can't stay and end it right then. There's something separating them, so they have to flee, or they're trying to protect somebody, or there's too many Fire Nation soldiers. This is sometimes a problem in D&D. Your players will try to fight anything, so make sure to communicate well. But Matt's correct. You want to show them the villainy, the power. You don't have to have it be they get captured or they get their asses kicked and then the villain swoops off. There are other ways to present this information to them.
Speaking about characters, I think we can't talk about characters without talking maybe just a little bit about the sequel. And the sequel does some really great things about logically building out the world in an interesting way and being like, hey, well, what would happen for my next campaign after
No. And I don't want to exclude the sequel. I just was worried that if we did both, we would have nothing to talk about. But I think Matt's right. And I love imagining, right, that the sequel is a reboot of the same campaign, right? Your players defeat the Fire Lord, but they love playing in the world. And you're like, okay, you are playing in the world of,
Avatar: The Next Generation.
Yes, the grandchildren of your characters from the first campaign. And this is a great way to do a reboot, or like if you put all this work into a homebrew campaign and your players like it and you want to keep playing in it, but like you've sort of like exhausted the current arc, is extrapolate, like Matt said, what would happen, right, a couple generations down the road. And I agree that Korra does such a good job of this, right? It's like, okay, we're starting to develop some industrial era technology. What would that look like? Like, how would airbenders contribute to this? How would earthbenders contribute to this? Like, what sort of bending technology? And this is I love Korra because it's a lot like Eberron. It's like, how would a world where there's magic everywhere.
Also have technological advances.
Yeah, what would it look like, right? And I think it does such a great job of it.
Yeah, it does. I mean, the Korra show suffers from, I think they made the first season not knowing if there would be another one, and so they couldn't have a overall threat. It also, it benefits from the problem, and I think Korra is a better main character than Aang.
Agree. Strong agree. Yeah.
But it's hurt by the fact that all of her villains, with maybe like one exception, are actually right. So
yeah, the thing is yeah. And also the second season is super weird and weak. Yeah.
Yeah, the second season is weak in that it's mostly backstory and
and it just like hurts the overall like. The thing is, like, the first season of Avatar: The Last Airbender is weak, which is easier to overcome than like a weird, out of place, mostly backstory second season, which is what Korra suffers from.
No, and I just really like I really like Korra and Asami, and I think they're better characters than some of the characters in the original series. This is the problem with making sympathetic villains, is my least favorite trope is a villain that is completely right, except they go too far.
Yeah.
But listen, I mean, it works really well for TV shows, and it works really well for your RPGs. Personally, I'm just like, well, why don't I just join this villain?
I know. Sorry, Matt. I'm so glad you brought this up because this is happening so often in like mainstream movies. Like they're like, shit, we can't do we can't do evil corporations anymore because that's done, and also Disney, for example, are an evil corporation, so that won't work. So what if we have
love to be a AAA?
What if we have a an eco-terrorist who is 100% right about everything except they kill too many people, right? Like what if the bad guy in Aquaman is like, you're destroying the planet and we're all going to die because of global warming, and you're like, that's true. But then he drowned some cities, and you're like, oh,
usually
well,
like unnecessarily, right?
Yeah, it's like, what if Killmonger is like, actually, all these, white supremacist, colonies are racist, and, we've been suppressed, and I want to fight that. And you're like, yeah, absolutely. But then he kills too many people. Or it's like, I hate this. This is such like a lazy trope. Yeah. It's like, how do you make some, like, don't have them be right, but like anyway, it does work well for like a show or for your campaign. It's just I like Matt am like completely tired of this. I'm tired of being like, yeah, he's right about everything, but I guess I'm supposed to like not agree with him. It's just it's so frustrating.
The last thing I will say about the series is I think the Avatar is the villain. Here's my evidence, Rob, is that we see in several scenes that
the Avatar is the ultimate centrist, Matt. He's
the radical centrist.
But both sides, Matt, or all four sides.
Long ago, the four ideologies lived in harmony: social libertarian, economic libertarian. You got your four quadrants. They all live.
You got your four quadrants. Yeah, he's right in the middle of the political compass. Is the Avatar.
But no, because we see in several scenes there have been hundreds of avatars, right? Which means that the world has been in a level of basically medieval technology for, I don't know, tens of thousands of years.
Potentially, yeah.
And which means the Avatar must be the one keeping them in that place.
But Matt, do we not want to all live in a static state of agrarian idle? Is it in fact not good?
I guess
No. I would argue no. And the thing is, I actually, this is like philosophically, is balance the goal, right? In life is like a perfect balance between yin and yang and good and evil, different forces. Is that what we want? Or do we want, because like the world of Avatar has kings, it has queens, it has aristocrats, right? It has evil merchants. It's not an equal society, right? It is not
There's just squalid poor and super rich.
Very poor people, right? So
people living in industrial polluted wastelands.
Even if we believe that is a consequence of the Avatar having disappeared for 100 years or whatever, it seems pretty clear to me that even the like good places are still living in a, you know, a hierarchical society, and the Avatar exists to support and preserve, right? And perhaps what we need, Matt, is some creative destruction.
Right. I mean, the idea is that four nations are inherently unequal. My one critique of the amazing, especially final season of Korra, The Legend of, is not only does it give us our first like children's show gay romance with two very well developed characters, and perhaps the greatest villain of all time, better than Ozai, I think. Kuvira, pure fascist, but you understand what's going on, why it's happening.
Great villain, right? Yeah.
Always fight fascism in your games and shows. But the one thing that it needed to end with was Korra being like, actually, the four nations are wrong. We should all.
Yep. She didn't go too far enough. Yeah.
Yeah. But not united under one nation. No nations. No
nations.
No nations, no masters.
No gods, no benders.
No gods, no benders. Yeah. All right. You want to talk a little bit about mechanics?
Before we talk about mechanics, Matt, we can't have this conversation without finally addressing this once and for all for our listeners. Who do you ship? Katang or Zutara?
Let's see. I guess Zutara. I don't know. I do like the arc of Aang in that you don't have to give up your you don't have to give up love. But yeah, whatever. Zuko's a more interesting character.
I mean, to me, on my first watch through, I didn't really like pay attention to this, but on my second, I was like, oh man, the like chemistry or like the relationship or interaction between Zuko and Katara is just so much more compelling and interesting than that between Aang and Katara. I can't tell if like they got cold feet at the end, or if, you know, they just did too good of a job of writing in that, you know, enemies to lovers tension. But yeah. On reflection, I'm sorry, Zutara is the right answer. Okay, let's talk about mechanics. So if you were to run this game, or if you were trying to run an Avatar game
or an Avatar-like game, right?
Yeah. How would you do that?
Well, first off, there's one system that will not work well for this, and this is probably Dungeons and Dragons, right?
Yeah.
This is a game, because what are our core themes of the game? Like cool martial arts, cinematic, you know, highly mobile gameplay and storytelling, a de-emphasis on death. Only very rarely does someone with a name actually die. It's not going to be Dungeons and Dragons.
You get hit with like fire blasts or icicles or big rocks, and it hurts you real bad, but you're not
the
dead.
Big rocks bugs me. I always just imagine they're piles of dirt, because when a rock that big hits you, you are dead. So maybe it's compacted dirt clods. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever. It's a fantasy world full of magic kung fu benders. No, I think there have been a bunch of fan systems that I encourage you to check out for this. My favorite so far, and maybe this is just because I've been in a kick on this, is there's a fan conversion for the Genesis system, which makes a lot of sense because you can use magic in that where, you know, you don't really need to get tired, and things usually work, but it's not, you know, super over powerful, right? I mean, they kind of designed this with Jedi in mind, and, you know, Jedi do a lot of the things that we see our characters do, at least cinematically. Beyond that, I would want a system where there was lots of fun back and forth in parrying and coming up with creative ideas to use your powers. Usually the person who succeeds is the person who uses their bending in the more creative way. There's also, lots of parrying. Gotta have parries.
There's a strong argument for a more narrative system for something like this, just because,
and that's true for any TV show, right?
Yeah. So. Any more cinematic, right, type of game. Let's see. I think that beyond that, any of the general systems, like I'm thinking Savage Worlds or GURPS.
Yeah, there's a fan hack called Savage Avatar.
There's also, I think, like a wuxia, like martial arts supplement for Savage Worlds. I'm not remembering what it's called. I know there is one for GURPS. These are both, again, this involves some extra work, but both of these systems are more flexible and allow you to flavor and adjust your play in a way that is very interesting. Yeah, so something like one of those systems where you can be flexible and you can adjust it, and it's built to be modified. This is one of the major problems with D&D, is that it's really not built to be modified. If you are like more comfortable playing in a D20 D&D system, the obvious choice is a game where everybody is a kineticist from Pathfinder, the original, which is not a great interpretation of bending, but it's okay. It's pretty good. The kineticist is one of my favorite like late edition Paizo classes. I played one in one of Matt's campaigns. They got problems, but it's a class. It's a class that's designed to
in that they don't work too well. But if everyone was one, sure, it would be fine.
If everyone is a kineticist, that will prevent a lot of problems. So that's an option if you don't want to do a ton of hacking and are familiar with.
It would be very easy to hack a Powered by the Apocalypse game if you make move sheets for the 4 bending types, a martial artist, and like a generic skills person.
But I think the lesson here is that the more you try to like nail down this like bending, the less fun you will have, because it is a very stylistic, it is very cinematic, right? So what you want is to encourage people to say like, oh, I leap from the top of the building and do an axe kick and, shoot a scythe of flame at my enemy, rather than, being like, casting 3rd level fireball from my foot. It's
and it costs 6 spell points or something, right? Yeah, you don't want to. This is not a keep track of things kind of system.
Exactly. Now, that being said, some players are better at this than others, and you may have a group that wants the Avatar experience but struggles with what can I do, right? So something like Savage Worlds with Avatar flavor, or even a kineticist game might make more sense then. But to really get the Avatar feel, you want to have as much like fun, flavor, rewarding, clever description as you can. And some settings are definitely better than others for that.
If you were going to play a campaign set in this world, or a campaign based on some of the fun ideas we had here, when and what would it be?
Ooh, good question. I think I would love to play a campaign set a decade or 2 before Korra, like when they're building the city, or like building up. I'm sorry, what the
Republic
hell is the
City?
Republic City, right? In the dangerous recent past.
Gangster campaign. You've got your
like
triads.
A gangster campaign.
You got your...
things aren't settled. Yeah, you got a gangster campaign. There's still some of, the big names around, but they're too busy to like deal with anything. And I think that would be a lot of fun. A little bit like lower stakes, but dealing with, like rival gangs, perhaps some like marauding like enemies from outside. Like maybe there's still some larger national enemies to deal with. I think that would be a lot of fun. That's where I would set it. How about you?
I would set it into the far future. The Avatar has disappeared. Maybe one of the player characters will end up being the Avatar. It would have to be based on what they wanted for the campaign. It would be taking that, what does this technology look like going forward? Maybe a 1980s feel of computers and that type of technology, very Miami Vice, I think, and also very Cold War. I would definitely have
Cold War Avatar makes a lot of sense. I think
2 main factions or 3 factions, one representing the non-aligned movement. I'm not sure what the 2 factions would be, but I would probably make the space race or the final frontier sort of the capitalism that is going on in a lot of Avatar, colonizing the spirit world. Despite Korra's best attempts to prevent this. And maybe I would throw in 2 avatars. There was a lot of weird stuff that happened in the 2nd season. There's no reason why there can't be a dark avatar.
Wouldn't that'd be interesting? I mean, a false like
The false pope.
the Pope in Avignon. Yeah, like that would be really interesting. And maybe this is clever. Maybe the second avatar or one of the avatars is just pretending to be able to wield all of the 4 elements, or has somehow like broken the rules. That would be I think a really interesting plot. And
by that time, like, you should have like, powered mech suits and stuff, so that if you have a character that doesn't want to be a bender, they can easily be just as powerful.
Yeah, I like this idea a lot.
Yeah, I think add in a little, really original Shadowrun, like really
OG
dumb 80s Shadowrun where you still have tape decks and stuff.
Yes,
but with bending would be fun, because Shadowrun gives us a nice model for mixing magic and punk technology. So actually, I would going from jazz going to punk. Punk is my aesthetic.
I didn't consider this, but Shadowrun might be a good system if you take out almost all of the tech and just like leave. Let's say you're running a Korra campaign. I don't know. You leave in like just like a bare like no like wetware or cybernetics, but like I don't know,
or a little bit, right? By the end they were like wearing gloves that could like shoot grappling hooks and shot people.
I think that like the system of spellcasting in Shadowrun, while normally a pain in the ass, actually is like a pretty decent baseline for bending. Maybe, I don't know. You can like burn yourself out. You can like do like significantly more powerful blasts if you risk your bodily integrity.
I think there's also like an interesting idea that was put forward, mixing spirit things and technology. Like maybe computers are based on capturing a spirit or something like that.
Ghost in the machine.
Yeah, exactly. Literally. And hackers are people who enter the spirit world through computers.
Ooh, I like that.
For what end, I don't exactly know, but resources.
There's
it's all about those
prestige.
Throughout history, resources have been desired by empires.
That's right.
Yes, I would make the Air Nation a failed peacekeeping force. There is revolution that has just overthrown Ba Sing Se, Red Lotus Ascendant. They're communists now. And then there's the Western powers. Literally. I would also and Rob, maybe it's time sometime in the future we need to do a whole episode on the Genesis system, because I need to send you there's also a fan-made Genesis rule set for Shadowrun.
Let's do that soon. Maybe let's do that next. We've been meaning to do this for a while, and let's do Genesis. All right, any final thoughts on Avatar? I could talk about this all day. Like, there's so much that we didn't talk about. It's so cool. Such a good inspiration for so many things.
Final thoughts, Secret Tunnel.
Secret Tunnel.
All right.
That's rough, buddy. That's my final thought is that's rough, buddy.
My girlfriend became the moon?
That's rough, buddy. My cabbages. Speaking of like my very favorite like throw off NPC, it's exactly the kind of one-off NPC that I would throw into my campaign, and then my players would insist on making me give them a backstory and like depth, because I'm just like trying to put like a joke guy in there, and then all of a sudden they have questions. Yeah, never do that. Okay, thanks for listening, everybody. As always, please rate and review, subscribe.
If you would like to send us your fun one-page role-playing game system, we're still taking those. So send it at dmofnone@gmail.com, or you can send it to us on Twitter.
All right, thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening. Stay healthy, stay safe, and keep rolling bending those dice.
Spring, summer and fall. Winter, spring, summer and fall. 4 seasons, 4 loves, 4 seasons.